Welcome on the 129 episode of The Leaders Who Care. I have a great honor to welcome Mike Jones, a founder of Better Happy, a consultancy that helps businesses from small firms to some of the largest UK employers improving their culture and growth, drawing on his experience in the military and living in monasteries and running businesses. Mike is dedicated to making leadership management simpler, more effective, and more caring. Mike, welcome on the Leaders Who Care. We're on a mission to give stage to those leaders who care to make a difference beyond the profit and margins. And we really appreciate you of having you today. Welcome, Mike.
My brother, thank you for having me on, Maya. I'm very happy to be here.
I love the name, Better Happy. As we say, happy Friday, better happy, happy every day, not just one day of the week. Um, Tell us more about the philosophy and the vision of Better Happy.
So the name isn't just, it's not just there because it sounds nice. It's got a fair bit of purpose and meaning behind it. It actually comes from a Buddhist term. So there's a term called metta Buddhism, which is loving kindness, and the kind of foundational teachings of Buddhism is that the meaning of life is to be happy, and that we're happy when we are kind and loving towards others, which not only sounds good, but is actually quite true in the world. So I learned a lot of this stuff when I left the military, and when I lived on monasteries, and after some good leadership, also some poor leadership that I received, I went and lived on monasteries in Thailand and Nepal, and learnt some different ways of looking at the world and seeing the world. And one of the things that I learned was that, yeah, the meaning of life is to be happy, and that we're happy when we are positively contributing to others.
Thank you for sharing that. I relate a lot to this as a spiritual person myself, and for me, sometimes as humans, we have the wrong interpretation sometimes, put it that way, of
Yeah.
certain things. But actually, as a Christian and a follower of Jesus, I look at actions, not words. And
Mhm.
when I look, for example, from what if you summarize and place from my point of view of Christianity, I'm sure that relates to Buddhism as well. If you summarize it in the two simplest things, is love. Love God as with all of your heart, and love everyone like you do yourself. That's easier said than done, but that's what it summarizes
Yeah.
of all the things. So really, when love is there, passion comes, peace comes. Right? Really, all the fruits of the patience, gentleness, kindness, self-control, all comes from love. If you don't have
Yeah.
the love for doing that, it will be very, very difficult to do any of it. So, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
And I
And
think
that's what it is. If anything.
I think that piece you said about loving yourself is so important. And I think lots of people that are in leadership positions don't realize until they get to those positions that they don't like themselves very much. They don't love themselves as much as they think they do. They're not very as confident as they thought they were. And then that manifests itself as behaviors that aren't conducive to good leadership. So a lot of the time when leadership's not going the way we want it to, it's actually because of our own personal issues, not because of the external world. So there's a big piece to be done around figuring out, like, why am I being this way? Why am I micromanaging? Why am I taking on too many projects? Why am I struggling to say no? And that normally comes down to a lack of, is very closely linked, right?
I love that topic a lot, and I think when you look really in my kind of work, I talk to many leaders from around the world, and yes, I've seen different leadership styles that are very different and that have a different impacts. I think even, I mean, as I said, it shouldn't be a thing called the leaders who care. Every leader should care in their way, but I think the way they express, the way the effect or the impact they create it can be very different, both positive or negative. And I think probably nobody wants to do a negative impact, right? They all start with yes, very few, but most should start from a good intention.
Yeah.
And what would be your maybe advice, since you do a lot of work on culture or improvement, when somebody is in that place of they have a good intention, but the result is not what they're not happy with. They
So,
create, let's say, more difficult situation, people leaving, mental health issues, etc.
yeah.
etc. No, well, how do you really go about a situation or potential plan that you may have that experiencing such?
So I think it's actually more common than not that when people are in management and leadership positions, they actually unintentionally create more stress than fulfillment. And I owned a business and I did this for myself. Made a very stressful environment, and I didn't enjoy it for many years. I got really burnt out, and I didn't have anybody to blame other than myself. So it gave me this quite unique opportunity to go, okay, I need to look inwards here and figure out what was going wrong there. Because before I owned a business, I could always blame somebody else. If I was stressed at work, I could blame the business or blame the wider organisation or blame the government or whatever, whatever it might be. So when I owned a business my first business, and I kind of burnt myself out, it forced me to look inward. And I learned a lot about myself that I maybe didn't understand before. And that's really helped me grow as a person and helped me become a better leader. Still not perfect, of course, because we're human beings, right? But what that did is give me this new lens to look at why these issues happen. Why is it that people in leadership positions do create these stressful situations, and being able to see it's often our own internal issues. So now when I go to work with businesses, whether they're corporates or small or medium businesses, it's very interesting because what you normally see is that the issues that are being created within the teams are due to the issues that the people in those positions have internally. So 9 times out of 10, it's not actually a business problem; it's a individual problem, and we need to look into and find out what those issues are. And what I found for myself was that, and this is why it seems to be very common for people in leadership positions, that if we've got any lack of self-confidence or any lack of self-belief, that's going to manifest itself as imposter syndrome. So we don't think we're doing a good enough job, which that means that we're leading through fear, not through excitement and confidence. So we're leading because we think if we don't drive everybody forwards and we don't get everything done, then we're going to get found out for not doing a very good job, and the whole world's going to crumble around us. So then we're running on stress. Our team receive it as stress. We take on too much. We don't spend enough time on strategy, stepping back, reviewing what's going on, what we could do better, what stuff we could drop. Everything's just reactive, quick, stressful, adrenaline fueled, and it creates a not very enjoyable environment for the leader themselves, and a not very enjoyable environment for the people that are below them. But what's fascinating is that the people that are below them, that are working with them, the team and the leader, they both want the same thing, right? They want the business to be successful because humans feel good when we're working collaboratively and we are moving towards growth. Well, that makes us feel good. So we actually all want the same thing. It's just the way in which we're going about it is creating more of a stressful environment than an enjoyable one.
And how do you help them? Just one, I guess it starts with the realization, right? Sometimes you don't
Yeah,
realize that.
yeah. So that's the first point, right? Let's actually recognise that this is probably an internal issue with you, the manager or the leader. So it's not the business's fault, because what everybody wants to say as well, the business is asking too much of us. That's why I'm stressed. That's why the team's stressed. So question I would like to ask is, would you say no to anything? Are you confident to say no to things? Are you confident to clearly plan out your capacity and communicate back to the business that, well, I can't take that project on at the moment because we've only got so much capacity. So are we good at that stuff? And often the answer is no. And when we dig into it, we've got a fear of saying no. We feel like we need to say yes to too much. We feel like we need to be busy, so we're not taking any time to do meetings with our team. And that's the first step, as you said, Marianne. So it's like, okay, let's accept that first. Actually, it's probably an issue with me. Not always, right? And you might be in a genuinely terrible culture within a business that's just a horrible place to be, but rarely is that the case. And especially for the businesses I work with, because businesses like that don't tend to approach businesses such as yours or mine because they don't care, right? So rarely is that the actual case. So we first of all recognize that it's probably an internal issue, and then we start to look at, okay, how can we overcome this? What systems and processes can we use? Some really simple ones. One of the most effective tools that I use with leaders and managers to help them prevent this is we give them what we
Mhm.
call a proactivity planner. And what that does to give them a year, a calendar, and it tells them, right, once a quarter, plan in a full day with your team to go through what you've achieved last quarter, what you need to achieve in the next quarter. Once a week, planning 90 minutes with your team to go through what have we done well this week, what do we need to do next week. And just that process of slowing down and spending time together can be really transformative and force us to step out of leading on adrenaline to leading on confidence and clarity.
Very, very helpful just to, uh, and you do that in is a sort of a structured way. Is there like a coaching sessions? Like, should anyone obviously be interested, to reach out to you? How do you, how do you go about it?
So it depends who we're working with. So when we work with a corporate, we'll tend to um, train a group of managers. So obviously corporates have lots of employees. So we'll potentially work with like a group of the leaders or a group of employees, and then we'll work them over a period of days. Usually we'll do 3 full training days where we go through these components and other components. But then if we're working with a small business where it's a bit smaller and the team's a bit closer, we'll work with the management team again over a kind of 3-day format. But we start off with the business first. We're like, what's the strategy of the business? Because I mean, you'll see this with the businesses that you work with, but many businesses aren't clear on what their strategy is at business level. So they kind of, they've got owner started. It's in the owner's head what they want to achieve. They've got a kind of good idea about who they are and what they're doing, but it's not written down anywhere. So many people in the business don't actually know, well, what are we trying to achieve and what are the objectives and what do we want to achieve this year. So we'll normally start with that. Let's get clear on the vision and the mission, the values and the objectives for the year, and 3 and 5 year plans. We'll normally get clear on that so everybody's on the same page. Then we'll do 1 to 3 days with the management team where we develop these skills. So, right, how are you planning your time? Are you giving yourself time to plan and to get together with your team and to actually think about what you should be doing? Have you got a system in place to prioritize objectives so that instead of trying to do everything, you've got a few things that you're going to do really well so that you and your team can get focused on that and actually enjoy the process as opposed to spreading yourself
Yeah.
thin and feeling stressed. So we also go through health as well. Like, do you know how to look after your health? Because big thing about being a leader is that people are going to do, you said this earlier, you look at actions, not what people say. So people are going to do what you do. So if you're looking after your health and making efforts in your health alongside your job, that's the culture you're creating. Whereas if you're just sacrificing your life and your health and your personal life to get results at work, well, then that's what your team are going to see. So that's what they're going to think they need to do. Many people are a culture of all health, stress, and burnout. So these areas will get covered. We cover um, how to get results without burning out, how to create an engaging environment, and how to be physically and mentally healthy alongside the busyness of the job.
Very interesting, and that's really important because it's written like, what's the point of winning the whole world and losing your life? It's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just really,
Yeah,
it's written in scripture, so you need to really focus on what's life, what really makes the difference, and there's many areas to it. Um, Thank you for sharing in such a structured way, and I think we all could do very quick checkup as leaders, and probably some things are very simple and common sense, but they don't done
yeah.
systematically. They're not, they're missed out. Is there like a good habits, that you recommend that this? So, for example, how can you translate it when you identify that the challenge and the issues? Um, how do you overturn them with perhaps good habits or recommendations?
So I think you've got
Eh,
personal habits and professional habits. So your professional habits are, at the fundamental level is spending time on meetings, but making sure those meetings are good. Okay, so um, one of the first things I look at with the team is have you got a set of objectives that you're focusing on that applies into the vision and mission? And then how often are you meeting to go through what went well last quarter, what we're going to do next quarter, what went well last year, what we're going to do next year? So if you're not meeting regularly as a team and having good meetings, chances are your business is probably living in a mode of being reactive, and that's just stressful for everybody. And a business can function in reactive mode, and many businesses do. It can do well, but it's not as efficient as it should be, and it's not enjoyable for the people that are involved in it. So, you've got the choice. You can either not have structured meetings and just run on adrenaline and just be reactive, or you can actually have structure in place, and then you can actually feel like you're collaborative, like you're a team, that you're focused on the right stuff. So I'd say that's probably one of the most important professional habits to have.
Excellent. And I like the fact that you said as a team, how to have a good team meetings. That's also um, could go a long way. How do you advise? Do you really have situations where you actually advise of how to structure a good team meeting, the objectives? Do you go into that details?
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways to do this stuff, as you'll know, and there's lots of books written on this, and there's lots of best practice. Over the years, I've learned from um, different thought leaders in this space, and I've kind of merged some of the best practice to what I see working best in, well, what's worked best for me, but also in the businesses that I work with. So, when it comes to setting goals, one of the better processes going is something called objectives, key results, OKR. And there's a book called Measure What Matters by John Doerr, which is a really good summary of this process. Um, I think the most popular goal setting framework is probably SMART, which I'm sure you've heard of, right? So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. But the problem with SMART goals is there's no rules around how many SMART goals you can have. So although a SMART goal on its own might be smart, when you get motivated and you as a team set 50 SMART goals, well, there's too many of them to be smart as a collective. So what you tend to do is get really excited, set loads of SMART goals, but then you've got way too many and everybody feels overwhelmed. Objectives, key results changes that because it puts a limit on how many you can set as a business. So no team or business should ever have more than 5 top level objectives at one time. So then that forces a team to go, right, here's all the things we could do this year that would all be good ideas, and here's all the things that our customers are asking for, which are also all good ideas. But what 5 things are the most important? And that forces prioritization, which a lot of big teams don't do, right? But it's a vital process.
I'm listening carefully and I reflect that this is super important for every leader to acquire those skills. But there's so much going on in their world, their daily lives. It's like it becomes more and more difficult. But you gotta make that discipline of improving yourself because your organization needs you. What do you think are the main barriers that for people to thrive, not survive in their workplace, both for leaders or employees? What would, if there was like something that will lift this and will almost unleash that power for people to thrive rather than survive? That moving away from that stressful mode to thriving mode.
I think the biggest barriers are not being not prioritizing. So what we just talked about there. So
Okay.
not giving yourself that permission to boil down to a few things. So because that brings with it fear, right? The word decide finishes in CIDE, side, which homicide and suicide also
Well,
finish in. And side means to kill, right? To kill off. So we hate making decisions because we're worried that we're gonna make the wrong decision. So it's easier to just go, well, let's try and do everything than to, because then I don't feel like I've maybe made a poor decision. That's much easier to just overcommit than it is to go, right, those are all good ideas, but this year we're going to focus on A, B, C, D, and E. So a lot of the time we haven't got the confidence to do that. And I see that in a lot of businesses all the way up to owner/CEO. And then before that really is giving yourself permission to be strategic. So, most of us that end up in leadership positions get there by hard work. You'll know this. You moved to a new country. You didn't know the place. You would have had to work very hard to get yourself off the ground. You went to university. You got yourself an education where you didn't speak the native language. And you work hard, and that gets you to a level of success. And then at some point, if you keep working hard, you find yourself owning a business or being in a senior leader position. And then what's interesting is once you're in that leadership position, if you carry on with the strategy that's got you there, which is work hard all the time, you then don't have the time to be strategic. You don't have the time to step back. You don't have the time to prioritize, to spend time with your team, to get clear on what's important. And that's what happens most of the time. And I did this with my first business. I'm like, people in leadership positions tend to just keep doing what they've always done, what's got them their level of success. So they stay busy. I've been with two groups of managers this week in a big corporate, and lots of them stressed and a bit burnt out. And it's because they're doing what they've always done. They're working hard. They're saying yes to as much as possible. They're trying to do everything to the highest of standards because that's what's got them to where they are. But when you get into the senior role, that's no longer effective. You can't leverage your team if you're just busy all day every day. You need to spend time with them. You need to spend time to step back and prioritize. You need to think about communicating your vision, and all that requires time. And if you're just busy from 9 in the morning or 8 in the morning till 10 at night, then you can't do that. So you've got you've got to give yourself time to slow down and be strategic. And then you've got to give yourself time and permission to prioritize what's important. Those are the two biggest barriers for mine.
I love that, mate, because you just made it so, it's like clarity. Prioritize. If you were to pick one thing, you said prioritize. It's just,
Yep.
and that comes with focus, right? Whatever you focus is on, it grows. If you focus on the bad thing, the bad things will grow. If you focus on the good things, on the important things, on strategic things, that will grow. And
Everything will only grow a little bit.
that is it. And that's a very common mistake, including myself, obviously gone through the journey that you can take on too many things, and they'll grow, but not in a way that if you focus on one thing can grow really rapidly and make a big difference. And that goes both for leaders and employees. So helping them to really prioritize, and that could make a big difference on what's
Yeah, if they
important.
see that you're doing it, then they're more likely to do it. Whereas if they see the version of Marion or Mike that's trying to do everything and is stressed all the time, well, they're going to try and do that as well. So it's again, it's people look for your actions, right?
Why planning should be an essential part of the business, and how do you think this relates to the prioritizing and productivity?
What was the first part of that question? Sorry.
Why planning do you think should be an essential part of the business?
So I really like this analogy. I have this analogy in my head of when we're in business with a team, think of it as a journey through a jungle, right?
Hmm.
So we're in a jungle and we're trying to get to, because it's tough to live in the jungle. So we're trying to get to a better place. So you're the leader. So Marion's the leader, and he's like, I'm gonna go on a trek to get through the jungle to this beautiful destination at the end, right? And then you're going to attract a team, and the team's going to go like, Marion, we want to come with you on that trip. It sounds exciting. So think about your business like that. So we can picture what a jungle looks like. So Marion starts chopping down the thick bushland with his machete, and the team are following in there, chopping down as well. And the problem is that if you just keep chopping all the time, you're going to make progress, but you might start going off track. You might start going in the wrong way. You might be going through really thick, hard, dense woodland when there's a clear bit over to the right that can make your life way easier. So if we're just busy all the time, like we are in mid progress, but we're potentially going to go off track and make our lives way more difficult than they need to be. If we're running on adrenaline, that's probably what we'll do. If we're in a rush, we're like, we can't stop. We need to keep chopping down the trees. We need to keep chopping. And then the team get that, and we don't stop, and we don't relax, we don't recuperate. And even though we're making progress towards our goal, we're all a bit tired and fed up. So if Marion, as the leader, says, right, team, we've had a good month of chopping, we've made loads of progress, now we need to stop, we need to recuperate, we need to get to know each other so that we can get our morale back up. And then at the same time, Marion's going to climb up one of the trees, get to the top of the jungle, have a look around and go, right, are we still on track or are we not? Or we've gone off track a little bit. Actually, if we go over that way, there's a little bit of thinner woodland that will be easier to cut through, which means we're going to make more progress quickly with less effort. So that's planning, right? That's stopping, let the team have time together, recuperate, look at how far we've come, celebrate what we've done so that morale stays high, but also take a view of where we are and where we're going to make sure we're still on track and that we're taking the most efficient path. So you don't have to plan, but you can still make progress if you just keep chopping, but it's probably going to be less effective than it could be. The team's going to get fed up, and we might be off track. So I think it just makes it so much better if we give ourselves permission to slow down and plan.
Absolutely. That's that should be an essential part of everyone really. And personally, but also as a business. And I I sometimes really find that having this really different ideas, different even generations, very passionate about the upcoming Gen Z and the current leaders of the day. There's so much that can be brought, together. But
Yeah,
I also see so many troubles and problems between the different generations, which is, um, within organizations, there's like normal to have a different mix of generations, cultural style, and they vary, and how their leaders really can find a balance, creating the ideal culture that fits all generations has been a very challenging one for many years. It's not something new. Um, when you have a diverse group, and especially here in different generation, different cultures, how do you, in the context of reflecting, planning, improving, what would be your advice to those leaders that are finding difficult to
so
cater for all?
yeah, we've kind of got like four generations now. So we've kind of got like the baby boomers. There's a name for the other one, and there's like the millennials. Now we've got Gen Z coming through. So I guess you've always got kind of 4 to 5 generations in a business, and the times in which we live now, right, we're changing rapidly. So maybe 100, 200 years ago, the changes in the generations might not have been as clear as they are today. Like kids are being born today with technology, whereas you and I, it came about in our lifetime. So I think the changes
Yeah,
are more extreme now, which is definitely something people have got to get used to. But really, I don't think it needs to be that difficult. And I think the key thing is regardless of the generation, people want to be listened to. People want to have a bit. People want to have a voice, and I should have mentioned that in that analogy. So you've got time to slow down and recuperate, time for the leader, the Marion to climb up the tree and take a look, but also time to listen to the team and just say to them, "Is there a way that we could have done things more effectively?" And your Gen Z might be saying, "Oh, there's a new app that you can stick onto a machete that keeps it sharp forever." Whereas your
yeah,
exactly, I mean, your older people might have a way of like an ancient technique of it's a bit harsh called the mold, but sharpening your machetes on this leaf. So, you know, just people being heard makes them feel happy. Not that you have to implement everything they say. So I think regardless of the diversification of generations you've got, you should be listening to your employees and making time to listen to their ideas. And just by doing that, you're going to bring together all these different thoughts and ideas and make people feel valued. And obviously, as well, you've got to enable that. You've got to have a culture of psychological safety. So you've got to make sure that you're not creating a culture where people are terrified of making mistakes or people feel that they're going to get laughed at if they share an idea that's not going to work. So you've got to create this culture where it's okay for people to make mistakes. Maybe not make the same mistake 5 times, but certainly okay for people to make mistakes. And people don't laugh at each other. And you've also got to be careful with, like I'm ex-military, I'm an ex-rugby player, so my upbringing is very strong in what we call banter. You just affect rugby players and army guys are just offensive to each other to be funny. But not all people
mm,
appreciate that. So it's
yeah.
finding the way to create a culture where everybody feels comfortable. And I think that's common sense. I don't think you need to be forces to learn that.
Always great reminder, and I thank you for sharing this. You previously referred to the saying, trying to keep the ship afloat versus steering the ship on an exciting voyage or journey. Tell us more about this analogy and why did you thought of it this way, and how leaders can remain calm in times of crisis.
I think this comes back to what you were asking about earlier and what you were talking about earlier around, how can we enjoy being a leader as opposed to being stressed as being a leader? And the ship analogy is a good one, right? So, it's another analogy. If you think of your business as a ship and your team are helping you direct that ship, so you've got two ways in which you can go about this as a leader. You can be confident and focused on the end goal and inspire your team towards that end goal, or you can get down into the docks and look at everything and be worried about every little thing that's going wrong, and and micromanage and just trying to make sure that everything's perfect, and any water that's coming in, you're instantly booking it off. And that there's two different ways you can go about it. And I think if you're going about it in the stressed way, where you're involved in everything and you're trying to keep everything perfect, your team are going to latch onto that. They're going to feel stressed as well. Whereas if you lead to it and have trust in them, and you get focused on the end goal and inspiring your people, you're going to be amazed at how confident people are. And I think a lot of the time, when people micromanage or get stressed in a leadership position, it's not because they're bad people. There are some bad leaders, but generally speaking, most aren't. And when you do fall into that micromanagement style, or just getting too involved, it's probably not because you're a bad person. It's probably just because you're stressed and lacking confidence in your team, lacking confidence in yourself, and you're getting too involved. And you've got to step back and focus on that end journey and let your team do their stuff. Let the team say all the shit whilst you focus on the end goal. That's that. That's that analogy.
I understand. No, it's a great reminder that, so how do you respond to when you're actually in crisis? And this is the real testament of leadership. What do you actually? Everybody can be a great leader in the good times, but what happens in the crisis times? How do you really handle that when you're stressed out, and when you don't know whether you're going to have a business even, when there's major challenges and headwind, that are coming. And give us maybe a great example of exceptional leader, that you aspire to, or what do they do in a crisis time? How do they react? So for our audience to really aspire to.
Yeah, so probably three. I mean, there's three that spring to mind. There's four that spring to mind. So I read a lot. So the Dalai Lama, obviously China, kind of making him a refugee from his own home and his community. So China kind of removed the Tibetan people from Tibet, and the way in which they responded to that. We've got Mahatma Gandhi, and obviously how he responded to the British occupation of India. You've got Nelson Mandela, and how he responded to being thrown in prison for essentially being black, during the apartheid. And Jose Mujica as well. He used to be the president of Uruguay, and he fought for civil rights in that country. Got thrown in prison for doing so, but ended up being the president. I think the common theme with all of them is humility. So they've got it's humility. So they don't think they're better than anybody, and they never act like they're better
Yeah.
than anybody, and they don't rely on force or power to achieve results.
Even though, if you think about it, they have a lot of influence and power. So if you think, just because those leaders have a lot of influence and power, but they don't use it. And if I allow me to add, of course, what Jesus did on the cross, he actually died for us, and not only for us, but for the people who hated him. And he, in the sense, said, use humility and say, forgive them. So I found exceptional power when people are ready to sacrifice themselves, not just for the loved ones, but for even the ones that actually hate you. That's something. That is something very, very special.
And I think that comes from a deep sense of loving kindness. That's this meta term from Buddhism. It's like you can develop a level of loving kindness for all living creatures, all humanity. It's certainly not easy to achieve. Probably Jesus Christ would be the most recent example where somebody's truly achieved that we know of widespread. So it's not easy, but I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. In a leadership position, if you can remove the ego and create a level of inner peace, not just with yourself, but with the people in your business as well, it's going to create a high level of influence. I think a great thing with business is not you versus them. It's like we're all trying to achieve stuff. So
I love that, man, and I really appreciate. I think what you just said about humility you picked up very strategically in we don't what spiritual terms. Humility keeps you away from, if we use evil, or the bad things that are coming, or the devil, whatever you want to call it. Um, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you protected. In Christian life, they say the higher you go, the more you should be on your knees, because the wind will not catch you. Because in prayer and spending time of being grateful and thankful, because it's the power is not coming from you, it's not because of you.
Yeah,
It's
it's that
somebody who
quiet.
has granted you that. And for us, obviously, God has given you that chance. You may not have it. So it's sometimes when people try to take that, I have it, try to use those principles for their own good, try to control. One thing that I've learned is that when I see somebody trying to control others, something is not quite right, because it just didn't come to control people. Neither did any of those people that we referred as a great examples. They didn't come to control, and that's the key. Not if somebody's not controlling but having the loving kindness, it's something is special there, something very different, and people feel that in the workplace. If they feel controlled and manipulated, you can. And fear is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
We know fear rules, but um,
I think that's a
this
big change that we're seeing in the workplace now. Because if you go back to the UK's comparatively to the rest of the world, the UK is quite a wealthy country. But if you read The Road to William Fear by George Orwell, which is like the 1920s, 1940s Britain, the quality of life in the UK was pretty poor. Just over 100 years ago, there was mass unemployment and lots of poverty, and then during that time, people work out of fear. They work because they have to, because if they don't work, they're in poverty. So fear works very well. Whereas now in the UK, we're very fortunate. We've got an NHS, we've got a benefit system, we've got quality of living, which is very high. So people don't work because fear. They work because they want to, which means fear-driven leadership is going to become less and less and less effective. Whereas wholesome, spiritual, high-level leadership is going to be much more effective now. People are working for you because they want to, not because they have to. So if you can tap into that, you're on to a winner. Whereas if you try and lead with fear, then well, they'll just leave. They'll just go and work somewhere else.
that is a great really advice to our audience. And how do you've mentioned going through a very difficult time yourself, and through major obstacles and burnout. Really, how do you take care of yourself now? How do you kind of try to be your best self? What are the perhaps rituals, or things that you do during the day, or what keeps you energized and keep going with
So
passion and love?
I think the biggest change in me after owning the first business was it's summarized very well by Jim Rohn. He's passed away now, but I don't know if you know about him, but very motivational
Jim Rohn?
speaker. Jim Rohn,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
deeply
Jim is
deeply
he's
founded.
actually the mentor. He was the mentor of Tony Robbins. He
There we go.
was
Yeah.
well, who actually, and also he's actually a Christian as well. It is a
Yes, yeah, I
fantastic
just said
leader.
that. Yeah, very deeply rooted in Christian philosophy. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn, and there's something that he says, and that is work harder on yourself than you do your job. So that really stuck a chord with me after the first business. I was like, that's so true. Like I put my life into I made the business more of a priority than me. And although that worked in the short term, the business is very successful in the grand scheme of things. Um, the business was successful. It wasn't a sustainable strategy, and it made me unhappy. And like you said earlier, how we go about it is as important as what we achieve. So mentally, that's been the biggest change for me. That's been quite transformative, making sure that I'm the priority. In regards to rituals, I make sure that it's very simple stuff. So I've got working hours where I know my sleeping pattern. I know that I work best in the morning, so I do my creative work in the morning. I start my day with a half an hour walk with my two dogs. That's pretty much a non-negotiable. I try to make sure that I hit about 10,000 steps a day, and I eat 3 meals a day. I've got good wholesome food in them. Most days, other than a Thursday, my partner and I will tend to stop working about 4 o'clock, go to the gym, and then enjoy an evening together. So it's not rocket science, I don't think. I think it's just giving yourself those basic routines, making sure that you're the priority, um, not putting more emphasis on the results you're getting in your work or your business than you do on your health right now. Because life is right now, right? And we need to remind ourselves about that. Yes, we want to work hard and we're passionate and we want to drive towards our goals and make a difference where possible, but actually none of that really matters. It's like they've got this kind of philosophy where it's like set big goals, but then don't care if you achieve them because it doesn't really matter. Like now is all that matters. So we have to remind ourselves of that very regularly because chances are things are going to go wrong. And even if you make the best business in the world and you've got all of the best structure in place, something it could change tomorrow and it could fail. It could be a new piece of AI that means it no longer works. So you've just got to not care too much about that.
No, thank you. Really, really great reminder. Final question for you, Mike. What is your hope for a more caring, more um, happier world?
So I used to live in Nepal, and Nepal's one of the poorest countries in the world. So I've been to Afghanistan in the military. I've seen the different extremes of the quality of living around the world. And I think across the spectrum, the quality of life in the world is improving, regardless of the ups and downs. On the whole, it is improving. I believe, from my experiences, that humans are genuinely at their happiest when they're able to contribute to others. And I think we've got a problem.
Yes.
I think we've got a problem in wealthier societies such as the UK where we've got too much emphasis on comfort, and what that leads to is people with the opportunities we have living in a country like this. Actually, lots of people are unhappy and depressed in these countries. My vision is that in the future, through the workplace and through businesses, structured on helping people and make an impact, we can actually significantly raise the levels of happiness in wealthy countries so that those people with all that opportunity and freedom want to go and make a difference in the less wealthy countries and become more conscious of the quality of living in the world and want to make a difference. Because if we can just make people happier, the natural outcome of that is they want to help others. And I think the workplace is the place to do that. I think through the workplace and through coaching and through development and through good leadership, we can bring the best out of people. And if we bring the best out of people, they will then want to go and make an impact on others.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much. Blessing goes to you and your team, and thank you for really the work you do and really spreading that message and helping more people to thrive at work. So really appreciate for being a leaders who care, and good luck.
Thank you, and right back at you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, man.